Hi everyone, I'm Jurren de Groot, partner at Briddge, and Mark Oliver kindly asked me to share a little bit about how we implemented Payzaar in our company over the last few years. Actually, we've been in touch actually for quite a while already and started implementing it. But maybe first, before going into some of the details, a bit of the agenda, what we want to talk about. I briefly want to share about who we are at Briddge, so you kind of are able to put things in perspective. What was the challenge that we were running into? And then why we decided to move to Payzaar in this case, and why the solution was Payzaar. Talk a bit about the rollout journey, how we did that, the impact it had, and what we're looking at next. About Briddge, so we are what we call ourselves a legal financial service provider. We like to think of us as a one-stop shop for companies who are coming to Europe. So we work exclusively for international companies, so mostly companies coming from outside of Europe or outside the Netherlands at least, that are coming to Europe and setting up and running their business here. So half of our clients, I would say, are approximately half are US based, but also seeing a lot of clients from Asia, but also within Europe and all over. Sometimes these are companies that are coming to us newly establishing themselves, saying, hey, we want to invest in Europe, and then we help them, guide them through that. Sometimes these are companies that are already located here, but are looking to change service providers, for example. Of course, we do payroll, which is what we're here to talk about today, but we also provide a lot of other services on the legal side, corporate employment and immigration services. We do a lot of tax work, accounting as well, and HR. Didn't mention it on here, but maybe helpful to know. We also provide employer of record services, also international throughout Europe. We're with about 90 people now, and 4 offices in the Netherlands. I forgot to include our recently opened office in London, because we now have a small office in London as well. Talking a bit about what did we do before Payzaar. Helpful to know that, of course, the way we had it organized is that we have what we call an NL payroll team. So that's the payroll team that processes payroll in the Netherlands for our clients' employees who are based here in the Netherlands. But then throughout the years, we got more and more questions from clients that said, hey, we also have employees in Germany, UK, France, Spain. Can you help us with that? So we started to do that, and then initially our American clients, they thought, well, Europe is all the same, so they thought it doesn't matter, and we took advantage of that. So like, sure, let us do it. I think already well over 10 years ago, and no longer we started doing that. But back then, of course, we just found someone in Germany, asked like, hey, can you help us processing this local payroll? And they sent us the PDFs and Excels, and then we kind of added everything together, sent everything to the client by email saying that, well, this is your payroll. In the beginning, it worked because that was pretty much the only way it was possible. But after a while, we started to run into some issues as that started to grow. Say here, fragmented partner network. So we were dependent on really our partners, local partners, to work with it. Quality was sometimes different. The way they provided the information, the data, the way they would work would differ, was difficult to manage. It included a lot of manual work, manual document handling, like I mentioned. A very big part was that there was no centralized platform, so there was no one way of doing that. It was all emails, documents, Excel files, etc. And then also, especially more recently, we're seeing a lot more competition from global players, global payroll players. Some of our clients are saying, hey, they can offer like a multi-country payroll, why can't you? So we're seeing some that will need to do something with that. Also, sort of a development that we went through as an organization, that as we've grown, we've noticed that also our type of clients and our clients would actually grow. When we were very small, still we weren't able to handle very complex clients and complex advisory work. As it grown, then our clients became more complex. But as our clients grow, they also became more demanding. They wanted better insight. They asked for automated processes, automated tools, stronger technology. So we also had to think about, okay, how can we keep up with our clients in doing that? This kind of goes across the board for pretty much all of our services, but I think especially in the payroll side, payroll has been very innovative already and been one of the first in growing on the technology side. So we really saw a demand, but also a challenge to figure out how are we going to deal with that. Payzaar. So why did we choose Payzaar? It wasn't just because Mark Oliver was nice and available to us, but it helped. No, actually, we originally, before we actually came in contact with Mark Oliver, we were working with a different provider that did something similar. We thought it was a great situation, but it turned out it became very complex because they basically were a payroll provider with a platform as well, and they were happy to say, okay, you guys can use our platform. But at a certain point, it started to really create a lot of friction because they also did their own payroll processing. They didn't really want to adapt to what we needed. So at a certain point, we said, okay, this is not working for us. That was actually around the time as well that we got in contact. And then I thought, okay, this actually looks like a very good solution for us. Like I said, the simplicity and flexibility of the technology was an important part for us. It was important for us to make it simple on the implementation side, but also simple on how our clients can use it. Integrated well with our existing partner landscape, although there have definitely been some challenges on that. I'll talk about that in a moment as well. But overall, I think you call it your provider agnostic, right, or payroll engine agnostic, which I think was important to us. That we we have a lot of different partners, different systems, that all is manageable with the Payzaar platform, and scalable. It was able to grow. But also a big part that we were always in touch with Mark Oliver and his team. So we've also seen throughout the years actually that if we had questions or concerns or saying, hey, actually this doesn't, we're missing this functionality. So it's been very good to being able in contact with your team, get feedback really quickly, and even get maybe other features added based on what we said. We found that was very important. Very important part for us also is the modern client experience, because I think we always continuously try to think about, okay, it's great for us, and of course we want to gain efficiencies on our side and do better, but ultimately the client experience is really what counts, how they experience it, and that's of course in the platform the way it looks, but of course very important, make sure that it's done correctly and on time, especially on the payroll side, as I think we all know. How did we do that? So a little bit about like how we went through that process. So like I talked a bit about it already, but selection, of course, in the beginning, and we looked at, okay, well, if we want to have some sort of platform and some sort of system in place to do that, we needed to look at different platforms. We used another platform before, like I said, that didn't work very well. Evaluated a few different ones. It is, to be honest, a bit of a tricky landscape to figure out, like, okay, if you Google payroll platform and you get all sorts of providers and systems, and that is not very helpful. But in the end, I think we found a few good ones that we looked at, but I think that it was quite clear to us from the beginning already that Payzaar was for us the way to go. I think a particular big important part for us was, as I think Trevor mentioned as well, or Mark Oliver mentioned, you're really a technology-focused firm, not doing the payroll management, payroll processing yourself. So it really felt like that's a good partnership, like what we're looking for. We're not a technology firm. We don't have any ambition to build our own technology. We just want to provide good services to our clients, but we do need the support of great technology to be able to do that. And that's, I think, also why the match was really there. Once we did that, we started to think about, okay, how are we going to roll that out? Started with a pilot, started with a few clients. We actually had one client that was really quite demanding. They said, okay, you guys need to have some sort of platform or we're going to go somewhere else. So it was good motivation for us to do it. That went with a number of hiccups, of course, but in the end, we were able to get them online. It was a good learning curve for us. And once we realized, okay, now we're getting there, we're getting traction, we're starting to understand how it worked, we decided to transition all of our clients into Payzaar. There was a discussion, of course, internally, because we have a number of clients where we do multi-country. We provide in over 25 countries in total where we provide payroll. Now, there it was a no-brainer. These need to be in Payzaar. But we also have a lot of clients where we, for now, only do their Dutch payroll. So it was a question like, do we need to have them in Payzaar, or do we just keep them in the local system, the local payroll engine, and provide online access from there to our clients? In the end, we decided we want to do everything in Payzaar, because we do believe that, for example, compared to the local system that we use, there's the whole payroll management, the payroll calendar system, integration with HR systems, with payroll payment providers, is better for most of the time, most of the things, than what the local provider can do. For us, also a big part is that we have a lot of clients that maybe we do their Dutch payroll, but they also have payroll in other countries that we don't do yet. Getting them on Payzaar makes it a much easier sales pitch for us to say, like, hey, actually, what about your German payroll? What about your UK payroll? You want to get it in the same great system? We can onboard it relatively quickly. So that's been our approach. Maybe talking a bit about like what are some of the hurdles that we came across. Like I mentioned, getting our own data ready. So when we're thinking about our own system that we used, it definitely took a bit of time to figure out, okay, how do we use that platform? How do we get the data in there that is manageable in a way to get it into Payzaar? We figured it out in the end, but that was a bit of a challenge. Aligning our local partners. Then, of course, the second part, getting our local partners to cooperate, because it meant that maybe they needed to provide their data in a different format. It maybe meant that they needed to work in a slightly different way. That was not always easy. Some of our partners we do a lot of payroll work with, so then we are a relevant and important client to them, and they might be slightly more lenient to work with us. Whereas in other countries, maybe we just do a few payrolls for them, and then they feel like, yeah, you guys are not a lot of big revenue generator for us, so why would I adjust my processes based on what you want now? Whereas we might say, okay, I know this is maybe a small payroll for you, but it's a big client for us in other countries. So it is important that the services are at the same level. That sometimes took a bit of discussion. I think in a few countries we even switched providers to find someone with a better payroll system that matched better. Payzaar actually helped us also sometimes in making some introductions and connecting with some local providers that they were familiar with and that they knew these work well with Payzaar. Last part, bringing clients along. When you're looking at Payzaar and the platform and the presentations, it all looks great. And when we tell our clients, like, we've got a great new platform, and initially like, oh, great, I love that. But then we tell them, now you need to start working with it. They have a different attitude. Because then like, yeah, but I was used to just sending you guys the Excel. Why now I need to log on? It's really challenging to find that balance because we are very, let's say, customer oriented in that we really want to be tailoring our solutions to our clients and saying, okay, we'll adjust to help you what works for you. But on the flip side, we also need to train our clients a little bit to explain to them, yeah, look, but if you don't change your way of working, we're not going to be able to gain those efficiencies. It's going to be more complex. You're going to get more mistakes. So helping them to understand, why do you now have to maybe log on to a system and provide and download the data from there, or view the data from there, especially for some of our smaller clients who feel like, yeah, it's just a local payroll for us in the Netherlands. Why do we need to have now an online system? But helping them understand what the benefit is for them as well. Actually is sometimes a challenge. In the end, I think we'll manage, but it takes a bit of time, I think, and sometimes more than, at least from my perspective, I would think, because I would think like if we offer this to clients, they think that's great, and they think it's great, but when they need to start change their way of working, they don't always think it's so great. So just something to keep in mind. Actually, one thing not specifically mentioned on here, but besides our customers, we also had our own team that needed to get used to the way of working. That also sometimes took some discussion because initially I thought we need this, so we're going to implement this, but people actually doing the processing, like, yeah, okay, well, now I need to learn a new system. What does it mean? Why, etc., etc. One thing actually that really helped for us, we were even talking about it again this morning, is that we had a great meeting with Mark Oliver, and I think Trevor was there as well, with our payroll team, to explain way better than I ever could about why is the importance and what is it done. So I think that really helped with our whole team to actually sort of see the light, like, oh yeah, actually this is the way we want to go. So maybe that's going to be helpful for other people as well, because of course, yeah, you can have a great idea, but if your team is not necessarily willing to work with it, it's not going to go very well. What were the results? What was the impact? I think on average, and honestly speaking, it is difficult to calculate. I think we all know it's not a very easy number, but we're thinking that, about 30% faster response that we can give to clients. The centralized communication for our clients is also very much appreciated, because they now have within the platform, they can see all the communication. Other people can step in, both on the client side, also on our side. It provides way more insights and way more transparencies. I've had situations, even when I involved more myself on the payroll or even the accounting side, that clients would ask me, like, okay, I need a report for all our employees across Europe about the cost and the cost development in the last 3 years. And we would spend hours and sometimes days gathering the data, building the Excels to provide that report. Now it's a push of a button, and they actually can see it themselves. They don't even need us, they just log in. And they really like that, because all our clients are international. So if someone's based in New York, we might already be asleep here. They don't have to wait for the next day depending on us, to get that report. They can just click it and get it themselves. Data validation, catching errors, I think that's a big part of it. Doing the input and output analysis, those kind of things significantly helped. A lot of other work that we otherwise had to do manually can now be automated. That's been a great results out of it. Efficiency as well, accuracy. So we're estimating, I think that there's, again, rough numbers, but what we've saved in time, but also reduction in errors because of the data validation that we can process. And of course, and I like that number, we didn't need to hire extra people, so no additional cost in that sense to be able to still manage that. One thing for us is also kind of like important to think about. Okay, but where do we stack up? Like, how do we compare ourselves and compete even with some of the other providers? We mentioned already, there's of course these global EOR platforms, global payroll platforms. Honestly speaking, for us, we're still a relatively small firm, of course, and a limited capital to invest in all of the marketing and those kind of things. Where we are really focusing on, that's where we feel we make the difference. Like, we're not a technology company, we're a service provider. We focus primarily on providing very high level of services, quality of service to our clients, but using the great technology to provide that service. I feel that at least in the market where we're in, with all these international companies, they need more than just someone who spits out a payslip. But we're also seeing that our clients, they don't have their own HR people, their own finance people here, so they need more support. If you go to some of the global providers, you get a chatbot, you get some AI tool that says, okay, yeah, this is what you need to do, and you hope it's correct. So that's really where we try to make the difference, and we feel like that combination of saying our high quality of services combined with great technology is what sets us apart from the others. On the one hand, it allows us, like I mentioned, bigger clients that are more demanding, but also really to focus on that service level and the advisory work rather than just the processing, just the data processing, for example. And we talk about it a lot internally as well, trying to shift, like also for people like within the team, thinking like, okay, you know, in the future, part of your, and already, but in the future even more, part of your work that you do now is going to be taken over by platforms, by technology, by AI. So we need to prepare ourselves, like what does that mean for you, and how can you then shift your focus on being more client-facing, communicating and advising, building that trusted relationship, like Trevor mentioned as well, so that you use the technology to do the basic work. Yeah, I kind of talked about it already, but it allows us to scale it up as well. So we're seeing that, you know, with the use of Payzaar, we are able to handle more clients, handle larger clients, but also to upsell, saying, hey, we can also help to provide these same services in other countries and compete to some extent with the global players as well. Few of the key takeaways: centralized platform, which I think was very important and helpful for us. Results came up pretty quickly, actually, even though the process of implementing it took some time. But once we have it fully implemented, we're seeing definitely the benefit of it. Right size solution. So I think it is important to kind of consider like what works with your type of size and your type of market. For us, we realized Payzaar was a very good fit for that. And yeah, it allows us to scale.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.